Welcome back. This is a recording for lesson 5.2, Operations with Decimals. This lesson is part of Math 020 pre-algebra course taught at St. Louis Community College. The recording is made by Dr. Victoria Shearing. In this lesson, we are going to talk about how to add and subtract decimals. We also review how to multiply and divide decimals, and we will briefly take a little sidebar, how to multiply and divide by powers of 10, still operation with decimals. We are going to start with with learning how to add and subtract decimal numbers. The process is extremely similar to what we did with whole numbers with a small modification. So how to add and subtract decimals. In step 1, you are going to write the numbers vertically so the decimal points line up. When we did that with whole numbers, we made sure that the place values lined up. Here, we need to make sure that the decimal point are right on top of each other. If you need to, you can use zeros as placeholders as needed if your one decimal part is longer than the other. And in step 3, you need to add or subtract numbers as if they were whole numbers. Then place the decimal in the answer under the decimal points in the given numbers. You just transfer the decimal point. Okay, so pretty easy. We're not going to spend a lot of time on practicing this skill. Here's our first example, example 1, and we have a couple of problems to do here. So we have 28.2 plus 23.2. So we're going to line those numbers up, 28.2 plus 23.2. As long as your decimal points right on top of each other, you just go and add the digits as if they were whole numbers. So 2 plus 2 is 4. Transfer your decimal point. 8 plus 3 is 11. So I get the 11 and 1 carry over, and I have the 5. 51.4. Be very careful when you line your numbers because that's how you're going to transfer your decimal point in the answer. So here we have 4.125. And the next example plus 5.9. So we have the decimal points, 9. Now, because I have empty spaces, I can fill them up with zeros just for ease of adding. And then add your numbers. So you have 5 plus 0 is a 5, 2 plus 0 is a 2, 1 plus 9 is 10. So that means I have to carry over that 1. Copy your decimal point, and then 1 plus 4 plus 5 gives you 10. It is optional to write the decimal numbers, not the decimal numbers, but the zeros. This is totally optional to write this part, only if it helps you. If it's not helpful, don't worry about it then. It's not required. Okay. So here's our next problem, 7.9302 plus 34. Okay. So here I'm going to start with the longer number, with the 7.9302 plus 34. So I really don't have anything on the decimal part. It's a whole number. So I can write in my zeros. And then for the decimal part, all I'm doing is copying down the numbers, bringing them down, get your decimal point, and then finally we're going to add 7 plus 4 is 11, and then 1 plus 3 is 4. So 41.9302. Moving on to part D, now we're going to subtract. Okay, so same thing, same rule. We're going to line the numbers up. So you have 66.15 minus 42.9. So let's write in a 0 here. All right, so 5 minus 0 is a 5. But I can take 1 minus 9. I cannot take 9 from 1 without borrowing. So I'm going to borrow from the 6. So now I have 11 minus 9. That gives me 10. That gives me 2. and then I have the decimal point that I need to copy down. 5 minus 2 is a 3, and 6 minus 4 is a 2. So you have 23.25 for part D. Okay. So let's keep moving on. Part E, you have 33.2 minus 21.932. Same thing. Let's start lining up the numbers. So you have 33.2 minus 21.932. Write in your zeros, because you can't take 2 from nothing. So this is where the zeros will be useful, more useful than when they were in the previous examples. Apologize for something happened to my screen. All right, so here we are. So I can take 2 from 0, and then there's another 0. So 2 is the first digit that lets me borrow something, 9 and 10. So 10 minus 2 is 8, 9 minus 3 is 6, and I can't take 9 from 1, so I'm going to have to go and shop for some more. So I have 2, and now I have 11. So again, 11 minus 9. Apologize for my screen's going kind of silly. All right, so I have 11 minus 9, which gives me 2. Now I have my decimal point. 2 minus 1 is 1, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So 33.2 minus 21.932 is 11.268. Okay. And the last one, you have a negative number and you're adding the positive number. So same rule, we need to review our rules, how to add negative and a positive number. So first we pick the sign. You have 89 and 76. 89 is a bigger number, so the answer is going to be negative. So once you determine the answer, for the sign for the answer, then go ahead and take the smaller number from the bigger one. So now my problem looks like this. 89.041 minus 76.43. Okay, so I'll find the difference, and I know that difference is going to be negative. So let's go ahead and fill out that 0. So you have the 1, 4 minus 3 is 1. I can't take 4 from 0. So I am going to have to borrow a digit. So I have a 6, ready for the decimal point. 8 minus 6 is 2. 8 minus 7 is 1. So I have for number part, I got 12.611. It is a negative 12.611. That is your answer. All right, so next objective is to learn how to multiply decimals. Let's look at a few examples and see if we can identify a pattern. So 0.3 times 0.7 gives me, let's see, 0.021. Actually, no, that's wrong. So you multiply 0.3 times 0.7 gives you 0.21, 0.21. Okay. 0.2 times 0.42 is going to give us, the answer is 0.084. And the last one, 0.01 times 0.06, 206 is going to be 0.2346. Okay. All right. So some of you probably have seen this pattern before or can figure it out. The clue here is how many decimal places we have altogether when we multiply two numbers. In the first case, we had one decimal place and another decimal place. So total 2, we have two numbers behind the decimal point. In the second example, you had 0.2, so 1 digit behind the decimal point. And from the second number, we had 2 digits behind the decimal point. So total, so 1 plus 2, we got 3 digits behind the decimal point. And then the last one, we had 2 digits behind the decimal point, 3 digits behind the decimal point. We got 5 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits behind the decimal point. So now we're ready to formalize this rule to multiply decimal numbers. Because we're going to be multiplying positive and negative numbers. In step 1, we need to determine the sign of the product. So once we have the sign, we write it in our answer, and then we start multiplying the numbers. Write the numbers in vertical format, lining up the numbers on the right. We don't have to worry about the decimal point here. We're just going to line up the last digit with the last digit. Step number 3, multiply the numbers as they were whole numbers, temporarily ignoring the decimal points. So once we have the numerical answer, in step 4, we will find the decimal point placement, the correct place where we're going to put it. The number of decimal places in the product, meaning in the answer, is the sum of the number of decimal places in the factors. If needed, use zeros as placeholders. In step 5, write the product with the appropriate sign. So here we are. Let's go ahead and multiply. So you have 31.67 times 0.4. Because we are not lining up with the decimal points, I always start with the number that has more digits. So we have 31.67 times 0.4. Now both numbers are positive, so there's nothing for us to worry about the sign. There's no reason for us to worry about the sign. It's going to be the positive number. So now we're going to multiply. 4 times 7 is 28. 6 times 4 is 24, plus another 2 from the 28, so it's going to be 26. 1 times 4 is 4, but we need 2 from the 26, so that would be 6. And 3 times 4 is 12. So you multiply your numbers. Now we need to find the place value for where we're going to put the decimal point. Okay, so here in the first number we have 2 decimal points. In the second number we have 1 decimal point. So adding them together, after the decimal point I need 3 place values. So I'm going to count them up. 1 starting from the rightmost number. I have 1, 2, 3. This is where my decimal point is going, because I have now 3 numbers behind it. Next example, we have negative 40 times negative 0.005. So negative times negative is going to give us a positive number. You can put a plus sign just so you remember it's going to be a positive number. And then let's go ahead and start multiplying. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take the 0.005, use it first, multiply by 40. Remember, you do not need to line up the decimal point. You just need to you don't need to line up the decimal points. You just need to line up the last digit. So the first multiplication through is just going to give us all zeros. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Then we're going to multiply 4. So 4 times 5 is 20, and then we have more zeros. Okay, so let's go ahead and add these up. Of 0, 0, 2, 0, 0. All right, and I need, so 40 was a whole number, but I need 1, 2, 3 digits. I need to place the decimal point so that I have 3 digits behind the decimal point. So I'm going to start from the right. 1, 2, 3. Put your decimal point right here. And you do not need 2 leading zeros. So your official answer, let's clean it up a little bit. We have 0.2. Number 1, okay, so this is what happens. We drop off the leading zero and we drop off the other zeros as well. Because if there's nothing after the last non-zero number, we do not need to keep writing those zeros. Okay, so that is your official answer, 0.2. Okay, this was 12.668. All right, so let's keep moving. This one, let's go ahead and do that real quick. So you have negative 0.321 times 6. So that means the answer is going to be negative. All right, now I've decided on the sign, so I'm going to do the multiplication number. Now, 0.321 times 6. All right, so line up your numbers. You have 6, you have 12, you have 3 times 6 is 18, and then so 19, because we had that one carry over. And then I need to, wherever I put the decimal point, I need to have 3 space for 3 numbers behind it. So here we go. 1 point and then 3 numbers behind the decimal point. Okay, so the official number, the official answer is negative 1.926. Okay. Couple of more. So 41.7, no, not 47.1, 41.7. 41.7 times 6.1. So you have 7, 1, 4, 6 times 7, 42, 6 and 4, 10, and then 24, 25. Seven, 3, 4, 5, 2. I need 2 numbers behind the decimal point, so I'm going to start counting 1, 2. So 254.37 have my 2 numbers behind the decimal point. All right. So moving along, here we have negative 0.008 times 6.5. The answer is going to be negative. And then I can do, I am going to start with the 6. Should I start with 6.5? No. 0.0008 times 6.5. It's easier to start with a longer number on top. Okay, so 5 times 8 is 40. Okay, so 5 times 8, 40, and then you have 3 zeros, 2, 3. 6 times 8 is 48. Then you have another 3 zeros. All right, so 0, 12, 5, 0, 0, 0. All right, we might have to drop off some zeros, but first let's place the decimal point. So what I need is, wherever I put the decimal point, I need to make sure that I have 4 numbers behind it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start counting backwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where my decimal point is going to go. Okay, and I do not need the leading zero, so I can drop it off. So here is my official answer, negative 0.052. Notice that I am going to drop the last one. I can only do that after I found my placement for the decimal point. Otherwise, the number is going to be, otherwise the answer is going to be wrong. All right, so the next couple of problems, notice that we are either multiplying by the powers of 1 like 110,000 or 0.001. So not a lot of, and it's negative 6.2. So we're gonna try to come up with the rule, how to multiply by the powers of 10. Okay, so let's see. The answer is negative. It's like in all of these F, G, H, and I, all the answers are going to be negative because you multiply negative times positive. So let's go ahead and do, I'm going to start with 100 times 6.2. So I have 0, 0, and then 2, 0, 0, 6, 0, 0, 2, 6, and I need only 1. So negative 620. Okay. So next one, negative 6.2 times 10,000. So again, I'm going to start with the 10,000. No, I don't need, should not be doing that. Okay, so we're going to do 10, 1, 2, 3 times 6.2. I don't want to confuse you with the comma for the place value and the decimal point. So we have, again, we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, and we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 6. Okay, 0, 0, 0, 2, 6. And I only need 1 0 behind the decimal point. So I have negative 62,000. Okay. All right. So let's look at these two examples that we just did and see if we can see the pattern. So notice that when I multiply 6.2 times 100, I got 620. 6.2 times 100, I got 620. When I multiply it by 10,000, I got 62,000. Okay, so some of you may have noticed that when we got our answer, we did not have a decimal point anymore because it moved, and it moved so many places as you had zeros in your power of 10, 100 or 10,000. So in a way, what happened is we started with 6.2, we multiplied by 100, so we took the decimal point and moved it twice, filled in a 0, that's our new decimal point, and then we did not have to write it as a decimal point anymore, so that's how that became 620. In the second example, what happened is we took our decimal point, okay, so we had 6.2, and it became 62,000. So we moved that decimal point 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, filled it in with 0, and now we have 62,000 because the decimal point went 4 places to the right, as many as you had zeros. You had 4 zeros, you went 4 places to the right with your decimal point. Okay, so you came up with a 62,000. All right, so now on the other one, H and I, when we multiply those, so let's go ahead and multiply those, but now they're decimal points, so 0.001, so you have the 2, they're going to, the decimal point is going to go to the left twice. But let's go ahead and multiply first, and then we'll see. So I am telling you that without even multiplying, I know that the decimal point is going to go to the left twice because you have 2 spaces behind the decimal point. It's going to be 0, 0, 6, 2. Okay, so let's multiply and figure it out. So you have 0.01 times 6.2. So you have 2, 0, 0, 6, 0, 0. Add them together, 2, 6, 0, 0. I need 3 I need 3 altogether behind the decimal point. So I have 0.062. Okay, just as I predicted, that's what we're going to have. All right, and real quickly, the last one is negative 6.2 times 0.0001. So let's start. So what I am going to write out without multiplying, because I know the rule, I would have to take a decimal point on 6.2 because you, in a way, multiplying by a 1. There's no really multiplication going on there. 1 doesn't change much. What changes is your decimal point placement. It needs to go 4 places to the left. So I'm going to have 0.00062. Okay, so remember the original decimal point was right here. And I went 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the new decimal point. Okay, let's go ahead and multiply, and 0.001 times 6.2, 2, and then 4 zeros in front, 6 and 4 zeros in front. Let me get rid of this 0 because that looks too much like 6, 4 zeros in front. So 2, 6, 0, 0, 0, 0. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers behind my decimal point. So I'm going to start counting them from the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my new decimal point, and that is exactly what I predicted that it's going to be. All right. Okay. So let's see if we are ready for, okay. So to multiply a decimal by a power of 10, move the decimal point to the right the same number of places as the number of zeros in the power of 10. All right, so here's the move to the right as the number of zeros. Okay, write zeros at the end of the number as placeholders as needed. All right, so we have 3.457. I am multiplying by 10,000. 10,000 has 4 zeros. Okay, so 4 zeros. So I'm going to take my decimal point and move it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I did not have the 4th number, so I'm going to fill it with the 0, the empty space. So I have 3, 4, 5, 7, 0, and now I can place my decimal point, which is not necessary because it's a whole number now. So it is 34,570. Okay. Part B, you have 0.0078 multiplying by 1,000. 1,000 has 3 zeros. So my decimal point is going to move to the right 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So the answer is 7.8. And the last one is 0.00025 times 100,000. So I have 5 zeros. That means I am taking my decimal point, moving 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 25. Okay, so these are our numbers, our answers to these examples. All right. And we are going to stop here for this part 1 of this long lecture. And we're going to meet part 2 when we talk about dividing decimals.